All right, if you are looking to chase walleyes in the month of October, boy, do I got some tips for you. You're in the right place. There we go. We even start this video out with a fish. I'm gonna break down 5 tips that'll help you catch more fish this month and hopefully put a few walleyes in the boat along the way. So right now we're fishing up we're sort of in a moderate depth right here. We're in like 13 feet or so. We have a solid walleye here. I'm gonna try and put this thing in the boat. Yeah, that's an over for sure, over 20 inches. I'm gonna probably just try and hand land it here in the back of the boat. And yeah, that's a pretty good walleye. That's pretty darn good. Ooh, there we go. Pop the bait out. We'll talk a little bit about lures and stuff in this video as well. Some tips on location, but there you go. Very solid walleye. And she even fins out for us as well. It's like a low 20s. So we'll get the, what was that? Yeah, Zelda likes the walleyes. We got the fishing pup with us right here. Come here, Zelda, come here. We got the fishing pup. And we're gonna share some tips. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Go. Ooh, this one's got a good attitude. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to talk about is water temperature. So I personally, this is my unpopular opinion. I personally don't see September as a fall month. That is a straight up summer month. October is the first true fall month. And October is also the first month that you're gonna find that the fish are really, God, sorry, I'm distracted. This fish is coming up. It's a solid fish. I'm gonna land it back here again just because I'm a little closer to the water in the back of the boat. So water temperatures, this is one of the months where water temperatures are really changing dramatically. So I am always watching my water temperature this time of year. So this is gonna be the first tip. Watch your water temp. Oops. Let's check the length on him. Ooh, he's a perfect under. I'm practicing for a tournament right here. This guy is an extremely desirable fish. 19 3/4, but anyway, the wind is blowing out here and the water temperature is a big factor that you got to be paying attention to. Basically, in the month of October, I'm looking at anywhere from 70-degree water temperature on down. So I was actually out a couple days ago and it was 70 degrees. We're having one of those long summers this year, but October is one of the few months where there's dramatic temperature change that is having a dramatic impact on where the fish are setting up and how they're willing to bite. So the first tip, super simple. It's gonna sound elementary. You've heard this in a bunch of different videos from different people, and that is pay attention to water temperature because things are gonna change quickly. So early on in the month of October, you are still gonna get away with some of your summer patterns. But as things progress, things are gonna change. You're gonna have to change presentations. We'll get to some of that later, but that is tip number 1, pay attention to your water temps. All right, let's talk about tip number 2 for October walleyes. I will say that this is the very first month that I am bringing minnows with me out on the boat. So early in the month, depending on the water temperature, like right now, water temperatures are 66. I could potentially bring minnows out here. It could make a difference. But that being said, I don't have minnows in the boat right now, but as water temperatures drop, we get closer to 60. For me, that's when you may want to start busting out minnows. But a lot of the summer patterns that you are using are going to work a lot of times in this early part of the month. But for me, a lot of people like to play with minnows in September. You know, they like to play with minnows in the summer sometimes, obviously tough to keep alive and stuff like that. But October is the first time that I even think about bringing minnows out onto the lake after the spring period. Obviously in spring, you're gonna have some minnows with you. But October is the first time I'm considering it. And that being said, from a bait and presentation standpoint, live bait, obviously super awesome, but some of the aggressive presentations are also going to be really good as well. So, all right, so the next tip I have for you, tip number 3, is to look for weeds in the month of October. Weeds aren't just a summer thing. Weeds are awesome all season long. They hold walleyes all season long, and you should definitely be taking advantage of them in the month of October. So I'm gonna show you a little bit what I really like to look for specifically. And bonus points if you got forward-facing sonar, because you can actually really analyze this stuff. But if you want to, you can still read weeds with side imaging, 2D sonar, stuff like that. But this time of year, what I'm looking for, obviously, sometimes those big, thick weed lines, the fish will sit right on the edge of those. Those can be good, but this is what I really like to look for. You can see we have kind of these scattered weeds. We got a bunch of bait fish right here. You can see that big cloud right there. But then as you pan around, you see the weeds are kind of scattered. We're up really shallow here. But one thing that I'm looking for this time of year is stuff like that. You can see a bunch of fish. I've got a big school right here. That's what I caught that last fish on, was right out of this school right here. You can see we got a few fish right in that area, those 3 little blobs, and then a few behind it. So this is the kind of stuff I'm looking for. Generally speaking, on a lot of the lakes that I fish around home, the thick weeds can be really good, but some of this sparser stuff that maybe has some hard bottom around it, you got access to sand close by, and then also access to deeper water. That's what I'm finding is holding a lot of fish. But then you've got also, these are the types of spots where more and more fish are gonna move up onto these spots as we get later into fall. So you can see right now we're in 8 feet of water. I mean, there must be a dozen, anywhere from like a dozen to maybe a dozen and a half walleyes floating around in this area. But these fish right here, a lot of things you can do with these fish. You can target them, with jigs. You can use a jig and crawler, a jig and minnow. You can throw a drop shot into them. You can throw a jerk bait into them. You can throw a swim bait into them. You can just throw, like a jig and minnow style plastic in there and pop that through there. But pods of fish like this is specifically what I'm looking for this time of year. And these fish actually look like they're all decent size. That last fish was a 19 and a half or 19 and 3/4. And the rest of them look like they're all about that exact same size. So these are the kind of spots that I'm definitely looking to target this time of year. So something to think about, something to look for. Look for your weeds, look for sand flats. On a lot of lakes, the fish are going to relate to these sand flats, but also don't give up on the suspended bite either. Some of the lakes that I've fished in the past, especially like some of those Canadian Shield lakes, there's a big pattern for suspended walleyes. So in October, look for weeds, but especially look for scattered weeds. That's tip number 3. There we go, got one. All right guys, the 4th tip, next tip we got here is going to be experimenting every, ooh, there we go. Ooh, oh my gosh. Is this even a walleye? If it is, it's a giant. Okay, my next tip is going to be experiment every single day. Experiment every single day with aggressive presentations, because this is the month where the switch will flip. I think we're gonna net it. I haven't even seen the fish, but holy cow, that run was so crazy. This is the month where the switch will flip and fish will start going nuts on aggressive presentations. Obviously, I am always bringing live bait with, because what are you gonna do? Go out walleye fishing, maybe it's your only day off, go out walleye fishing and not bring live bait? Man, not a giant fish, but just a real angry one. A real angry walleye. Let me get him unhooked and show him off to the camera. Check that guy out right there. Not a giant, but maybe another, oh, careful Zelda, maybe another fish that's right in that range. Oh no, this one is a little bit over. This one's 21 inches, but just a beauty. Beautiful walleye. So anyway, that is the next tip. Just make sure you're experimenting with artificials. Make sure you're experimenting with things that would be considered aggressive presentations. I know a lot of people in the month of October, they will go out and they will grind a jig and a minnow the entire day. And honestly, that tactic can work. You can catch fish, but it's gonna break your heart when you go back to the dock or you go back to the cabin and talk to your buddies and you found out that they caught twice, 3 times as many fish as you did, and they were throwing swim baits or jerk baits or dragging a jig in a plastic minnow or something like that. I will say, like, I always have a jig ready every month of the year because it is just way too effective. It's way too versatile. There's so many things you can do with it. Sometimes fish really do want the live bait, like right here. I have that new tungsten smeltonator that's going to be available next year. Sorry, I shouldn't even mention that in an October tip, because you can't go and get them this October, but these jigs are insanely good paired with a night crawler or a minnow or any of it. But so I always have this ready. You know, I've got some rigs tied up, I've got bobbers tied up, and I'm using them a lot. But that being said, I've got my plastics, I've got my jerk baits, I've got you know, my lipless crankbait ready to go this month. October is the month of change. It's the month where those walleyes get real snappy, and honestly, this can be the very best bite of the year. So that is tip number 4, and I got one more for you. All right, the last tip that I got for you. Sorry if the wind is blowing too hard. I hope I got decent audio, but if you look at the wind, or if you look at the waves right there, you get an idea of what we got for wind out here. So I'm gonna go behind this windshield. There we go. Go behind the windshield and block that wind a little bit. All right, the 5th and final tip is actually wind related, and that is don't avoid the wind. So if it is a nasty day and the conditions are crazy and you can't control your boat and you can't cast accurately, you know, then maybe go to a more sheltered place. But just generally speaking, on an average day, the wind is your friend in the month of October. A lot of times what I've seen is you go out some mornings and maybe there won't be, you know, barely any wind at all, and you're seeing fish, can't get them to go, and then that wind kicks up just a little bit, and especially if you're over on the wind-blown side where there's a little bit more waves and stuff like that, I found that bite can really kick on. So don't avoid the wind in the month of October, even though it might be more pleasant, you know, over on the protected side. Rough it out in the tough wind. And some advice that I would give you, obviously utilize spot lock, you know, to kind of keep you in place and whatever. But aside from that, upsize your baits, you know, or upsize your jigs, stuff like that. use a heavier jig so you can cast easier, cast more efficiently, hit your targets better. Using a heavier jig can be really critical, especially in fall. It seems like, you know, fish can be really active this time of year, and you don't necessarily have to have that slow, super slow drop speed. Now that being said, if you're not dealing with wind, yeah, downsize your jig, get that slower drop speed, can help for sure. But when it's super windy, upsize your jig so you can make a lot better casts. So that would be my advice. If you are in the wind, you're in the thick of it, and you're just not fishing very good, you know, you're not able to cast very well, you're not able to keep track of your bait and how close it is to the bottom, how close it is to, you know, fish and weed lines and stuff like that. Get out of the wind, go somewhere where you can fish more efficiently. I will give you that on the worst days. Being able to fish efficiently is the most important thing. But anyway, that's all I got for you. Those are the 5 tips that I have for you in the month of October. October's here. I don't know exactly when I'm going to be able to edit this video up because I have a tournament this weekend. But today is October 1st. So, yeah, the ice fishing companies are starting to drop their new, you know, their new product lines. Everybody's sharing their new ice fishing stuff. People are starting to think about winter, but October is absolutely one of the best months of the year. Maybe the best month of the year, honestly, all in all, because you really, like, that's where the majority of kind of that mid-fall bite is happening, in the month of October. So get out, take advantage of October, have a bunch of fun out there. Hopefully these tips are gonna help you put a few more fish in the boat in the month of October. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.